Hi. Today, I wanted to update and review Amiki, who, let's just get it straight out of the way, I was I would say mostly off base with. Originally, when I had used Amiki, I had seen her as somewhat of a counter character, and honestly, that's what I had seen a lot of other players do prior to her specialty change. And after the fact, I had originally believed that, well, even though they made some of her kit into be AoE and things of this nature, I didn't realize just how impactful the splash and overall damage from her S3 would be. And so then, for that, I apologize. I was way off basis. But today, I want to talk about Amiki, her impact on pretty much every single piece of content that she's in, and why I think she's almost, if not even quite at the point of BBK 2.0. Without further ado, let's get into it. First and foremost, I wanted to go over my build for Amiki, and as you can see here, I have her on counter with some ER, a little bit of effectiveness because realistically she only wants roughly 3 stats, and about 5,000 attack. Now, in terms of sets, I do feel that counter is almost a given. You kind of have to use this specifically on her, just because if you end up being in a solo, a lot of the additional counters that you get here will be critical, if not the most important aspect of her entire kit, just because you can consistently provoke, you can constantly force the enemy into hitting you, and they basically blow themselves up while hitting into Amiki. Now, there are a couple different variations, both for her offset or her 2P set alongside her artifact, but the 2 artifacts that I found to work the best were El's Fist, if you are honestly more free to play leaning, or the one that I like using more often than not, which is Hua Young's artifact. This, in my opinion, does also kind of change the way that her damage is spread out, though, primarily because Yuberia's Tooth definitely relies a little bit more on the counters, whereas El's Fist is more reliant on, well, one-shotting whatever enemy you have with the S3. Now, for the purpose of this, I'm going to switch to my Yuberia's Tooth, but in terms of her 2P set effects, as I mentioned before, she does have a couple of options. She can use Pen Set because, believe it or not, a character in epicseven in 2024 doesn't have full defense pen. And yeah, well, this also affects her S1 damage, and it gives her a decent amount of kick to her attacks. If you want to run her on Torrent as well, because getting her low does actually end up being useful in some cases, kind of similar to someone like Cannaaaa, where you want to just hit the threshold or hit a certain condition or activate by being low health, then by all means, you can also use Torrent. But between the different variations of sets, I found that either effect resistance set, hit set if you're really goofy, Torrent set, immunity, or basically anything you can think of, even offset at some point, I think also ends up working. But truth be told, there aren't that many different uses for Amiki's stats outside of, again, the 3 stats that I mentioned, which is attack, effect resistance, and effectiveness. In terms of stat distribution, I would definitely say that being high attack is pretty important because you just want to guarantee the kill. And unlike other characters like Bloodblade Karen, where they can be manipulated or cheesed a little bit more just by activating them and so on and so forth, in most cases, Amiki is able to just cleanse off whatever you're going to do to her. And another big reason why I think Amiki is so strong is because formerly, whenever you see someone pick Bloodblade Karen, you maybe have someone like New Moon Luna or something like that to deal with, but there's actually no answer in terms of trying to strip Amiki's passive without just making her take the turns and basically hitting. Now, again, you can argue that there are counters to this character. I by no means am trying to insinuate that she's weak, or sorry, super overpowered or anything, because she does have clear, well, weaknesses, but the way that you access those weaknesses is much more difficult than most other characters in the game. Now, in terms of where I think she's usable, truth be told, I've been using her almost all the time, actually, in Arena, or rather in RTA. I get it, not the most exceptional testing and performance from me right now, but as you can see, I've been basically using her to solo any team composition on screen. She's not only just usable for this as well. I've seen people, or plenty of people, attack me in Arena with Amiki as well. Let me see if I can find this. Well, classic Arena. Maybe can I find anyone that attacked me with her in Arena? as I'm sure you guys know, Arena is super volatile and things look all goofy and stuff. Point is that I've seen people use her in all sorts of content. She's a great bait against, you know, characters like Janua, because she basically is Janua, but ice. And otherwise, one-shots pretty much any other character that you can imagine. Now, of course, the clear weakness behind a character like Amiki is the fact that she has extra turns, and she also counters a lot, or does extra attacks, dual counter attacks, whatever you want to call them. Now, the main reason why I think she's strong in RTA, though, is because just being tanky, or just running, or just taking Rowana or Lionheart Sirmia is a lot easier said than done. In most cases, if someone takes any of these characters, it's way too late in the draft, or if someone picks like a green Rowana earlier on in the draft, you just pick Ran and you just slice their team in half. Now, I do think that this does make RTA a little bit more interesting, because now we have a completely new 3-star who most players, just by completing episode 5, will have access to. But I'll be honest, this character basically feels like Bloodblade Karen. Now, it's interesting because I'm winning quite a bit of games, actually, specifically against Bloodblade Karen. But honestly, she's about as ridiculous as you would imagine for a character who's so similar to Bloodblade Karen. There are, of course, matches where I'm losing, and I'm not playing absolutely perfect, to be clear. But as I'm sure you guys can imagine, this one's pretty funny too, by the way. I'm pretty sure I fought this guy earlier. Yeah, literally right before this, and he got really upset. Anyways, you can tell based on this that the performance of certain characters will obviously increase or decrease Amiki's success rate. But in general, I'm even picking her kind of early, and she's really, really strong. I'm fighting against Harsetti teams. I'm fighting against Bloodblade Karen, and these are some of the most meta characters you'll see in RTA right now. And she's got a pretty good track record against them. Now, unfortunately, I played all of these, you know, on my phone, and as you can tell right here, it says you can't see. But I do want to talk about the, again, kind of the use cases or why this character is a little bit scary. Now, if I were to tell you that a character like Amiki is great against counter characters, or if Amiki is great against certain cleave setups where they try to run multiple strips, which is not the case, by the way, I think she's quite vulnerable to that, I would tell you, wow, this is a fantastic 3-star. Almost feels kind of reminiscent of someone like Christy, who had a very specific use case in, you know, dealing with Zeo, and people were doing that Zeo trap. If you guys aren't familiar with what that is, it was where players were forced to either hit someone like, you know, like a Violet or an Aiden or a Christy, and, you know, the Zeo having to S3 any of these characters basically one-shots his team or punishes his team. If this 3-star specialty change was of the Christy caliber, I think that she would be one of the nicest, most like healthy and balanced characters that Smilegate has added to their roster. However, it kind of doesn't feel like this is the case, and rather it is more like she's being put into that SC Arrowell or the specially changed Arrowell kind of category, where, don't get me wrong, I never thought that Arrowell was so unbelievably broken that I'd like smash my keyboard over how ridiculous she is, but this is an almost universal character in most cases. Now, of course, there are going to be cases where, you know, if you pick Amiki and you have no one to support her, and then the enemy team picks Candy, Senya, Bloodblade Karen, Destina, and they all have 30k HP, then, okay, to be honest with you, she still kind of has a chance. just being clear. However, jokes aside, in most cases, running a super tanky team or being able to run characters like Moon Bunny or even a character like Rowana does actually make this character quite vulnerable. And if I'm not mistaken, in one of my matches that I just played recently, that's exactly what happened to me. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this game specifically, as you're seeing right now, I kind of timed out a little bit, but whatever. Not in terms of banning, but in terms of how I played this. It should just be ran S2, S3 into S3, but somehow I didn't kill with my Ludwig. But as you can see here, I had not that many units to support the Amiki, and I got tanked out by a 20k HP Luna, like, you know, a 30,000 HP Laya, Rowana, and Moon Bunny. There's almost no team worse to fight against when it comes to this team. And of course, again, like, my Ran could have done a little bit better, but my Silver Rain didn't go onto my Ludwig, so RNG loss. Anyways, Point being, though, from this is that she does have counters, and it's primarily through playing against very tanky team compositions. But guys, that's not a real counter to a playstyle or a counter to a character. The idea of just pick tanky characters and you not being sure of what exactly the Amiki is going to do or what teammates Amiki is going to have makes her very, very intimidating and very powerful. I want to disclaimer again, I am by no means saying that this character needs nerfs or she's broken or, oh my god, you know, like the world is ending, regardless of what I put for this thumbnail, by the way. Apologies for that, YouTube algorithm game. But the point is that she's very strong. She has almost no reason not to pick her, basically. And so long as you are able to either pivot or punish slow players for playing very big, bulky tanks alongside the Amiki, Amiki will basically cover all your other options. Have a really squishy team that can get one-shot by her S3? Amiki's got it. Dealing with someone that's trying to cleave you and trying to strip you, but there's only one strip and not two? Amiki's got it. Dealing with characters that are in that mid-range, like maybe you're fighting against, honestly, even some fire characters like Ed or, you know, even Janua, heck, even, you know, characters, I mean, I was going to say Carrot, but no one's really going to pick that character. Pretty much any character you can think of, even Ravi, honestly, kind of has a tough time against, well, Amiki. And again, I do want to preface before we go any further that although she is very strong and we've moved past the disclaimer about her not needing to be nerfed, there is a more important topic that we need to mention when it comes to Amiki, and that's honestly her biggest problem, and that's how difficult it is to build her. Now, the stat line that I'm showing before you guys right now is something that I just rolled basically a little bit for, and I ended up having the ability to roll gear that Amiki could specifically use. But take a minute to take a look at what kind of gear I'm actually using here. 42 effect resistance, 7 attack, and 14 effectiveness on pen set. What? No HP as well to avoid having too much HP. What? 26% attack, arguably 9 effect resistance, and 153 flat attack, and still a wasted roll of crit chance? Huh? 11 effectiveness, 16 speed, and 11 effect resistance on a counter chest? A neck with 26 effect resistance on attack main on counter set with the ability to roll 11 effectiveness and no HP subs? A ring with 44 flat attack and 21 effectiveness and 20 ER? Just take a look at the pieces that I'm rolling right now, and you all almost immediately understand the sort of disastrous experience that I would have had to go through in order to perform or do this activity or build this Amiki. She's absolutely ridiculous. She has some of the most baffling gear requirements if you really want to make her shine, and this is on arguably one of the more, I don't want to say wasted sets at the moment, but it's on some of the more unusual sets to be farming. Now, counter, I agree, you can use maybe for characters like, you know, Candy or like, you know, your Shoe, whatever character you want to put a counter character on, that's totally fine. But for you to start rolling or have, you know, already rolled these effectiveness and effect resistance and attack percent pieces on right side is quite ridiculous. And honestly, I don't think it's realistic for almost any player at all to have this going in. And just the fact that I used my blue boxes on this character this week should be a testament to how bizarro what I'm running is. Now, honestly, I don't even think that's like that big of an issue though, because truth be told, honestly, it's a 3-star character, and with time, you'll eventually get enough gear to invest in this character, and she's a 3-star. So at worst, what? You're using a little bit of runes, you're using stigma and catalyst to upgrade this character, and we're in the middle of an event where they're incentivizing you to upgrade every single character under the sun, awaken every single character, do infinite runs of Golem, Katie's, whatever, and runes. So building her shouldn't be too bad, but I did want to give the warning that Again, these are not very easy stats to come by. Even with the setup that I have, in my opinion, I've got 24 wasted speed. I've got a bunch of wasted crit rate and crit damage. And although I do think that effectiveness could be kind of cool and running something like, 100 effectiveness would be nice in my Amiki, I think it would also just be hilarious if I had 200 effect resistance. Just me. But again, for me to actually receive those rolls is fairly unrealistic. And even with every setup that I have right now, I haven't been able to find a variation of this Amiki where she ends up being at that 200 effectiveness spot. But otherwise, it would be absolutely fantastic to actually be in that sort of, or to have that sort of Amiki build. Now, I want to close out today's video by saying that I apologize again. My read on Amiki initially was a little bit off, but after testing her, seeing her, having a bunch of, I'm sure you guys have seen it, having seen a bunch of streams at this point show Amiki terrorize 1v4 in any sort of situation that you can think of, I think she's definitely a must build for any players that are starting or interested in getting into RTA. She does, of course, come with having to clear episode, or clear 10-8 of chapters, clear 10-8 of episode 5. Apologies that the naming system, whatever, is a little bit confusing. But getting that far into the story is a little bit difficult if you don't have friends, or if you aren't quite capable enough to clear stuff like Zio or whatever bosses. You literally have to beat Harsetti, if I'm not mistaken, to even get this character, by the way. But long story short, I think she's one of the best new characters that epicseven has released. I don't know and can't say for sure right now if I'd say that she's broken or if she's unhealthy for the meta, but beyond anything else, while I do want to leave a very positive, glowing review of Amiki, she feels a little bit scarily similar to Bloodblade Karen, who, listen guys, I'm sure you guys already know, but for me personally, I don't like seeing a character that can one-shot a whole team if they don't have at least 25k HP, Prot set, and Adamant Shield plus Aureus, and they all have Holy Sack built into their kits somehow. In any case, I think she's cool. Amiki has had no playtime at all formerly, unlike Bloodblade Karen, who had at least a little bit more time to kind of sit and, kind of experience what it's like to be played. So I'm happy for Amiki. I think she honestly looks great and fantastic too. I like this, kind of this cape adventurer kind of aesthetic going on. And to be honest, she reminds me of Yubel from Freerun. I think that's where she's from. Sorry, I haven't watched Freerun before, but I know who Yubel is. Anyways, thanks again for watching, guys. I will see you guys on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Check out the rest of my socials. Good afternoon, good morning, good night. Bye-bye.